got this interesting meditation style that he like explains throughout the book, and there's like places you can find it online too.
Okay.
And it's like this 6-phase meditation where, you practice some gratitude, compassion, forgiveness, kind of envisioning your future self, practicing like imagining your perfect day. And then he does this sort of blessing where, whether it's fate or some sort of God, whatever your religious or spiritual practice is,
Okay.
just to give you sort of like come full circle and give you this this sense of I guess like empowerment towards whatever your goals and dreams and all that is. And so I've been doing that one because it's, I don't know, sometimes just the like sit and think meditation doesn't work. When you got like a lot going on in your mind. You're just like, you're gonna end up getting distracted. So having somebody or having something that's a little more formulated to guide you through is useful, because then it feels, I guess, a little more productive at times too. But Sam Harris is much more of like the traditional kind of mindfulness practice.
Okay.
And it's a really good app. It's depending on like your budget, it's expensive because it's like $20 a month.
But you can email them. I want free.
And so I ended up doing that. So I do have like a free year.
Oh, that's good.
Just because like I was paying it for the first few months, and then I'm like, well, I'm not making money yet with the new business, so I need to cut that out. And then they're like, okay, we'll give you a free year. Hopefully you'll tell other people, and if in a year's time when everything's going smoothly, you'll sign up and continue on.
Yeah.
But also the first 50 days when you sign up are free, because there's like a 50-day introduction course.
Okay.
And just doing that alone it gives you all of the fundamentals to how to meditate. I think it's 50 days that they give you for free. Might be a little bit different, but he's got like sort of that introduction course before you actually get access to his daily meditations or anything.
Okay.
You have to go through the first 50 days. Yeah. And it's good stuff.
No, it always feels like, from what I hear anyways, everyone's like, until I found TM, I couldn't meditate. Right. And do you know what the difference is between TM and the rest of them?
Yeah, so TM is what's transcendental, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You get a mantra.
Okay.
In TM, you are repeating a mantra in your head as a way to kind of guide your focus. So in like Vipassana, is that yoga? Vinyasa. It doesn't matter. Yeah. In the traditional mindfulness meditation, the whole purpose is to focus on like a single point, right? Whether it's imagining like a flame, or the breath is the typical cue to focus on. And so that's kind of a little more the style of like Sam Harris's meditations.
Okay.
But TM is essentially like the whole purpose. You're supposed to have a mantra that you never share with somebody.
Oh, really?
That's part of it. Like you're given this mantra by somebody that's trained to like do TM, and you pay several $1,000s to do the TM course over whatever the length of time is, a few days or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then that's your mantra for life that you're supposed to do for your meditations. And so it's supposed to be like a couple of syllables that essentially is meaningless, so that there's no thing to bring up in your mind. And
you literally just repeat that the whole...
Yeah. Okay. As far as... So that's what I understand. I've never done a TM course, but I've read that's how it works. And if you go online... You can usually search up like TM mantras, and I don't know how. I think it's like based on the first letter of your name, or there's just some weird like just simple system that you can pick a mantra. And so I have one.
Okay.
That's like just because I was like, okay, so but I don't really ever do TM. Like I don't know. Sometimes like it can help you get focused again if you're just repeating something, but Yeah, so that's how it works.
Okay.
And so but the Sam Harris one is good for understanding like the more like the scientific kind of practice of mindfulness, and finding like that no thought, or that state of discovering your consciousness. It's cool stuff. Definitely recommend going through at least some of his things, but there's also, there's Headspace and Calm, and like all of them have good introductions. And then the other one that I've been recommending lately is the 6 phase, because Vishen's got this. So he created Mind Valley, which is like an online sort of personal development sort of system, like courses and stuff. And he's also got a meditation app called Omvana, which is where you can find the 6 phase meditation practice for free on there.
Okay.
And so, yeah, like
Cool.
it doesn't cost anything, and it's a useful one if you find that you get distracted by things a lot in trying to do normal meditations. So yeah.
What about?
We haven't even introduced you or anything yet, but...
Oh, have we even started? We started recording?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think you said you were limited on time, so I figured
Sweet, yeah.
we'd jump right into it. But so Dan Growden's back on the show today. We had him a few months ago when him and Josh were goofing around and planning this fun trail race that went over really well and looked like a lot of fun. And I know all the runners in the area thought it was a good challenge, so that's very cool. And I wanted to have you back on because your story is definitely something that I think has a lot of inspiration behind it. Also because you just are so humble about it all, even though you've accomplished many awesome things. So I wanted to get a little bit of the story behind the man today.
Sure.
So, yeah, since we're diving right into it, just from you've been an athlete pretty much your whole life, and in a lot of sort of ice sports, hockey and speed skating, and is it hockey that you started with, like as a young kid?
I was just always out moving. I think, yeah, probably hockey was the early sport I remember. Hockey and lacrosse when I lived in Milton. When I was in kindergarten. But I remember riding my bike early and skating at a really, really young age, like 2, 3, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I progressed, I played a lot of different sports as well, but hockey was the one that kind of I was solidified in.
Okay. And was that just like, that's where your passion lay the most, or what was it about hockey that...
Yeah, I think definitely when I was a kid, I really enjoyed it, and I always wanted to be a hockey player. As I got older, I wanted to try lots of different sports, which I did. I love track and field, cycling, mountain biking, like a whole pile of a good range. I played tennis, basketball, volleyball, just kind of like typical kid. But hockey, I guess hockey is the one where I maybe showed the most promise.
Okay.
So that was kind of my track.
Yeah. And like, I think endurance also it's just something that comes a little bit naturally to you. It's kind of like in you, right? Like, it sounds like you sort of got this unlimited energy plus sort of like the genetic makeup to be like an endurance athlete of some sort.
Yeah, my parents will joke I wasn't allowed to have a nap when I was a kid because I wouldn't go to bed. And even if I didn't have a nap, a lot of times I wouldn't go to sleep until like midnight.
Oh, yeah?
I've just always had a lot of energy. And I was thinking about this. I don't know if I was talking to Josh about this recently, but I could be up for 2 days, have no sleep, and then finally get to bed at 4 a.m. If you wake me up and you want to go do like an extreme exercise or an endurance event, like I still somehow have the energy for it. I just have
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever it is, who knows?
Yeah. Do you function on, so you function really well on like a little energy then?
Yeah. Like I would never, I don't actually, this may sound really weird.
Or I mean little sleep. I said little energy, but I meant.
Yeah. Well, same thing. Like there's never a time where I feel like I don't have enough energy to do anything.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a useful trait to have for sure. So kind of like you said, going down the hockey path, you actually you were quite accomplished, and what it was you played for the Windsor Spitfires.
Yeah. So yeah, I played minor hockey in Peterborough and then got drafted to Windsor. Played a couple years there. Then asked for a trade and went to Belleville for a couple years, and then I'm trying to think whose camp it was. I think it was Florida's training camp. In an exhibition game, I wrecked my right shoulder, had surgery in the fall, and then played half my overage year after my surgery in Owen Sound.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and it was like kind of sort of that unfortunate circumstance that led you out of hockey, because these injuries, I think first it was one arm and then the other shoulder sort of went after that, didn't it?
Yeah, well, kind of like in playoffs and then into I guess playoffs of that year was my left shoulder, and then I had surgery in the spring of that year. So yeah, in less than a year I had both my shoulders operated on, and it didn't do anything.
No.
They still dislocate.
Oh yeah.
But
so yeah, you got out of using your upper body for sports then, and it led you to speed skating, right?
Yep. Yeah, so after I played half a year in Johnstown, and then decided I wanted to go back to school. So I went to York, and I was there for basically 2 years, and got a call to go try out for at the time it was On the Podium speed skating, On the Podium sports program, where they get crossover athletes. So I went out in July of 2006 for a week and tried speed skating. They said, yeah, come on out. So I moved out September 2006 to Calgary.
Right. And so how long did you do the speed skating for?
So I started September 2006, and I guess in January of 2010 is when I stopped.
Okay. So like 4 years.
Yep.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you had like some of your teammates were like the Olympic athletes then, were they? Or?
Yeah. So the first year when I moved out, it was like the On the Podium group. So we had some other ex-hockey players. We also had some inline skaters that moved across. And then after that season was done, we got a call that they canceled the program within our speed skating anyways. Yeah. So we were all kind of disbanded, and I moved to a training group with Claire Hughes, Christina Groves, Arna Donkers, Shannon Rempel, all multiple Olympic medalists. So it was fun.
Very cool. How do you so there's a lot of fascinating things about speed skating, but how do you go about training for that, like year round? Like, I know you did a bunch of different things and you'd sort of travel all around to kind of get the work in, basically.
So it's a weird sport in the sense you may be like, so hockey, you have hockey practice, you have games. That's the majority of it. You do off-ice training, but it's not as much. Speed skating is maybe a third on the ice. The rest is all off-ice. So it's basically 50 weeks of the year. The 2 weeks off are active recovery. It's 2 times a day, 6 days a week. Wow. Like Christmas Day. Like it's a full-time gig, and it is primarily road cycling. So a lot of times it'd be like 5 hours in the morning riding your bike, and then in the weight room for 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon, and that is like a big chunk of it.
Oh yeah.
And also a lot of dry land training. So mimicking a stride, working on balance, leg strength, stuff like that. And then within the year, usually 2 training camps just to build volume. So going to Northern California to ride your bike for 10 days and do weights. Arizona, it was a lot of hard work, but it was a lot of fun.
Cool. Why did they, what was it about? Like, because I know you've sort of biked all through sort of the San Fran area and stuff. Why do they pick those areas? Is it convenience from Calgary, or is it?
Close to Calgary. So we'd fly into San Fran and stay in Petaluma or Santa Rosa, and it's really popular cycling communities there. Mm-hmm. So I guess in a sense, like, people kind of, like, there's a lot of back roads, a lot of mountainous regions where you can kind of be left alone. You don't have to worry about traffic as much.
Oh, yeah.
Warm weather. Like in Calgary, we saw snow every single month of the year. So
yeah,
like, it's just nice to get away, have like 10 days of nice weather where you can put in lots of time on the bike.
I see. Yeah. And like the weight training, is it mostly like lower body based, or what? Is there much going for the upper body?
I don't know about now, but at the time, if any upper body was like an accessory exercise that
almost like
you could do it if you wanted
right?
to. Yeah, exactly. And so if you look at a traditional speed skater, especially long trackers, it's like bird body up top and then just big legs.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that like, what is it about the cycling that carries over so well to speed skating? Is it just because the same muscle groups that are being used?
Exactly. It and this is where that is the traditional speed skating training.
Yeah.
Weights, cycling, and on ice time. And so it's low impact, using all the same muscles. You can get a lot of volume. Mm-hmm. That's the main reason. But when I first started knowing the podium group, we trained completely different. There was a lot more, like, we played badminton twice a week. We played our game called bandy, which is on ice, which is almost like field hockey, like really short sticks, so you're always staying low.
Yep.
And we were new to it, so we were going to have an upward trajectory, but it was far exceeded what anyone thought was possible. Like, we caught and passed so many people that had speed skated their whole lives. And it was in that year that Jeremy Witherspoon had he had been training that way as well, because he had traditionally trained as a normal speed skater, and he kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say fizzled out, but he kind of plateaued for him. But when he came back, we trained with him most of the time, and he trained like a traditional sprinter, like as in either a bobsleigh athlete or a sprinter on the track.
Oh yeah.
His first race back, he set a world record. And he was so much happier just for the variety as well.
Yeah.
Like, you could see a mindset change in him as he progressed leading up to the Olympics. And now this is my theory. Mm-hmm. The team slowly integrated him back into traditional speed skating, and you could see his mindset change, and his production kind of plateaued again, and he didn't have the results that he wanted or that people thought. But it was weird. And I remember after the Olympics, Stu McMillan, who's the CEO of Altus down in Phoenix or Scottsdale, he has a blog, and he interviewed him, and he talked about when they were at the Olympics, there was 25 staff and 18 skaters. And he said what he saw, there was just too much. And I also noticed, like, it seems like it takes, when you give them everything, it takes away a bit of that kind of mystique or like the drive to want it, because they, like, anything they wanted at that point they could have. Not, Jeremy wasn't a person that would ask for stuff like that. Like, he was very almost like a lone wolf. Like, he only took what he needed to do. But I don't know, there's too much bureaucracy, and I don't know, it was just a weird thing. But I definitely noticed the skaters that trained differently appeared to be happier and had better results.
It seems it's kind of like it might be a shift of the sense of pressure, right? Because most athletes are driven from within. They're from essentially from pursuing their flow state, right? Like the thing that they're most passionate about. When you get all those other people involved, then it starts like externalizing the pressure, probably.
Yeah.
To the point that it's no longer as fun, or you can't get your mind completely into it because you're thinking about, oh, this person is expecting this of me, or I have to, whatever it may be, I have to go to the psychologist after this to try to practice my mindset when it's already like dialed in.
Yeah.
Things like that, probably. Yeah, that's really interesting. Kind of on like the same topic though, like evolving after. What was it that ended speed skating for you? Was it just sort of...
So it was another, well, I don't know, I guess you can call it an injury, but a year and a half leading up to the Olympic trials, just before we went to Tucson, Arizona, and just skating laps at the oval, I guess you could call it drop foot syndrome, but when I would cross over, my right toe would go like this and then jam into the ice. And so every time I cross over, I would do that. And the corners rebuild all your speed, and you maintain it on the straights and build your speed in the corners. So I couldn't build any speed. So we went to training camp. When it got back, I think I took another week off ice and just did off ice, but it was still there, and I just, not training smart, I just continued to skate and develop that pattern, and then couldn't get rid of it.
Oh.
I somehow still made the Olympic trials and skated those, but it was a year and a half of what is happening.
Yeah.
This is awful.
That's very interesting. So like I have a feeling that there's probably a lot of sort of time spent in flow in things like skating and probably hockey too, because it's fast paced, sort of like the speed kind of contributes a lot to that sensation, right? And it's there's a challenge. Something maybe we can touch on that's really interesting too is there's actually a lot of risk too. The stakes are high in speed skating because you're skating on like a single millimeter blade that can like basically cut somebody's leg off almost, essentially.
Basically, yeah.
And something that, because I've listened to a couple of podcasts with Apollo Ono on, he was on The Drive and he was on Finding Mastery, and a lot of speed skaters. So you wear like a Kevlar lined suit, don't you?
So short trackers do.
Okay.
I think that is a regulation because they're in such close quarters
with other skaters. Right?
Yeah, and that's basically it's a 111 meter track, I think. Sorry if anyone is a short track speed skater and that's wrong. But it's basically inside a hockey rink.
Oh yeah.
And there's 6 of them and they bump. Some long trackers do wear some portions of Kevlar, but because it's basically on the same size as a running track, and you're not technically ever, unless you're crossing on the back stretch, you're not technically ever coming in contact with someone, you just don't wear them because they get too hot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so. But I heard like, Apollo would cut it out of his suits.
Oh, okay.
Because it was the chafing or the lack of mobility in the different areas, because it's like sort of in the crotch to like protect the femoral artery from getting sliced, and he would cut it out or whatever of his suits, and a lot of skaters did the same things, I believe. But the blades are super interesting, right? They're it kind of like I still can't wrap my head around it. And you said that every skater kind of like sharpens their own blades typically and does all the work on their own blades, right?
Yeah, so if you picture like just going to get your skate sharpened at a store, they put it in a machine and then you just run it across the stone, and But a speed skate, you have to flip them upside down, and they're in a jig, and you have your own set of sharpening stones, and then so you literally back and forth, other way, and then you gradually get to a finer stone until it is a mirror. You can actually see your face on the bottom in that little millimeter strip. And so it's a complete 90-degree corner, which also makes the edge incredibly sharp. But people also like different rockers and radius in the blade. So if you were to put the blade on a flat table, not the whole blade is touching. There's only a small portion in the middle that is. And it's also curved. Some people like a really tight radius, so it's curved the same radius as the corner or tighter, so that when they turn over and lean into the corner, the whole blade is on the ice and it is similar to the radius, and that's where you get your power. Or some people like less, so there's a little bit maybe less grip in the corner. But yeah, the theory is, so when you're on the straights, you maintain the momentum only on that tiny little spot, so there's less friction. And then in the corners, you get a lot of grip, and you can use that whole blade. So you, like, if you tried to turn the other way, it's really hard because the blades are curved the opposite way you're trying to go.
Right. So I didn't really realize that you always go the same direction.
Yes.
Does that develop a lot of like
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems. So at the time, on the Canadian team anyways, I was the only one that kind of was having these problems with like my back and hip and stuff. But after I retired, there was 3 other friends of mine that had to retire for basically the same thing.
Oh, okay.
And that, I think that was my biggest problem. I wasn't used to it coming from so many different sports to being so specialized and only doing one thing, that it just messed me up because I'm used to having more symmetry, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's super interesting. I'm sure, with all sports though, at the top level, it's not a game of balance. A lot of the balance goes out the window, and it's like such focus and dialed in performance. But like the flow of it, I think, is something that is really interesting. I'm curious, does that resonate with you?
Oh, 100%. I guess I would first maybe notice it in hockey.
Yeah.
There are times when, like, you're playing a game, I literally don't hear anything. I don't know if there's a crowd, and everything, just seems to slow down.
Yeah.
And I've had multiple, like, games like that throughout my life that it just happens. You don't know what happens, but it goes well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that was one thing at one point that I had achieved. They call it easy speed in speed skating.
Oh, okay.
So it's hard to tell on TV, but if you see someone like Jeremy Witherspoon skating a 500-meter race, so the shortest, fastest race, and you see him going around, it looks like he's not trying, and you want to yell at him, like, what are you doing? Yet he's the fastest skater in the world. And it's just that perfect balance of pure power. The Dutch call it, he was like a ballerina on ice, like pure power but grace, and it is just so relaxed, and you can feel yourself going around the oval, and you barely even touch the ice, and you're just flying. And same thing, everything, you can't hear anything, you can't see anything. It's just this, like, right now I can smell it, I can feel it. It's a good feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something that that's super awesome. That I think, most athletes can recognize it in some form or another. I think one of the powerful things, or the neat things about some of those endurance sports, is you get more time in that zone. Because like with strongman, it's a max of like 60 seconds at a time. And so that would be for what's sort of the length of time of some of those. So 500 meters would be
500 meter, like 35 seconds.
Yeah.
Like world record's 33.9, but that guy, we won't go into that. Then 1,000 meter, which is like 110 is world record.
Okay.
1500's 140. Oh no, 139 something now. And then it goes for men to 5K. World record is 6:03. And then to 10K, which is 12:30 something for world record.
Do you think if now those time frames are kind of aligning, do you think the flow is as prevalent in like the 5 and 10K?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Okay.
It's like they're in another world.
For the entire duration of the...
Yeah.
Cool. That's cool. It's that's what I'm thinking of more as like the extra length of time. I don't know. There's something special about that that's quite appealing, right? Because it's not something that's sustainable in a lot of power sports. It's a different thing, but it all comes down to having all that practice that makes it automatic for you, that you're then doing exactly like what your body's programmed itself to do.
Yeah.
And to be world class. Kind of, steering from that, like it's obviously, like you said, going back to that sensation. What do you long for that feeling, and like what do you do now to kind of like try to get it back?
I don't know if I would necessarily. Maybe I just don't think about it because I know I can achieve it. It's not like I'd say I do get it at least once a year with a good friend of mine, Dustin. We do the Storm the Trent adventure race every year. And so that's anywhere from like 4 to almost 6 hours, depending on the course. But there are large chunks in there where, like I'm completely in a different world. And like an hour at a time if we're on the bike or if we're running through the woods trying to find something. Even if we're looking at a map and trying to find something, it's like everything else just checks out. And but as far as like trying to achieve it, like I don't go out of my way to do it. I would definitely like to do more stuff and do more endurance stuff. I just haven't prioritized that, I guess.
No, that's totally fine. It's interesting because I think like that's a good example. You kind of get like the dose of it even on a yearly basis, and it's kind of it's the same thing with there's a difference when it's I definitely think there's a difference if you're an athlete and it's in like sports performance of some sort. That's kind of like the pinnacle of it. I'm sure it would be the same thing if you're a musician and it's like that performance on stage is the same thing. Like you'd probably crave to get it on a semi-annual basis or whatever. And so you start to feel that calling when it's the season kicks in or whatever, that it's that time of year again. And it is it's very like draining as well, right? It's something that you do need to sort of recharge to get back to that sort of top level flow, and not just kind of like the daily or whatever you can kind of do on a daily basis to find sort of peace and mindfulness and meaning and all that. But no, that's super interesting. I was curious to know like if that was something that for an athlete, at the top level, it sort of longs for, seeks in some way after the sport, after like retirement and stuff. But also, I think just to be respectful of time and not like go overboard.
Oh, I still got it. We're still good. Probably till about 8:50.
Okay.
I have to leave here.
Yeah. But I think like if you want to talk about it, like you're well, actually, there's two things. So you're one of the most like positive, always cheerful people, and no matter who I talk to, they say the same thing about you. And is that something that comes naturally? It's the start of February, and even throughout January, we've been talking about this topic quite a bit because people sort of struggle through the gloomier months, and what are the things that you do to like maintain positivity or optimism, or does it just completely come naturally? Is it something that you've learned over time? I mean, you've got experience to sort of share, I think.
I think I'd say for the most part it comes naturally. I think I've always been, I guess just cheerful, and I like to see people smile, have like people around me happy. So, and I think it goes back to the energy thing, because a lot of times if people are down in energy, like maybe their mood will shift, but I think having that energy doesn't allow me to get to, not to say I don't have my down moments, but doesn't allow me to get to a place where I do get too grumpy. And I just like to have fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Like most people who know me, I'm weird and quirky and do strange things. Like I just showed you a picture of a special haircut that I gave myself, which I routinely do with these weird things. But I think I've always been, just kind of happy per se.
No, it's not something that but the energy point is actually really useful, whether it's actually it's kind of timely, because the video that I'm going to put out this week is about getting outside. It's not everybody wants to go outside because it's February and it's cold, and a lot of the days have been gray, but just that movement is really powerful stuff. And that's one of the things that was one of the big takeaways that I learned from the Tony Robbins event back in October too, that stuck with me, was the just actually feeling the difference when we've all seen it, like he gets everybody up and jumping up and down and stuff, and it does change the state of physiology does change your focus, does change your mental state, and it's really powerful. Is there, what's sort of, and I know you mentioned this kind of last time on the podcast, that you work out once a month, but you are physically active all the time too, because you've got your contractor business and stuff. Does that satisfy your need for movement and stuff, or what else do you do?
No,
regularly?
Not even close. I think as you were talking, I was just thinking, I wonder if part of it is, it doesn't matter what I do, I always kind of make a little competition with myself about it.
Okay.
And I always, I have that kind of inner child still in a way. Like if I see a fence, I can jump over that fence, and then I'll go jump over the fence. Or if I'm carrying lumber, let's see if I can carry 4 sheets of plywood. And so in ways like that, I kind of push myself. And I think that even if I don't, even if I try to carry 8 sheets of plywood, I don't get angry at myself that I can't. I just laugh why did you try to do that? That was silly. And I think I have a weird inner dialogue like that I can laugh at myself, and I don't, in a way, don't take it too seriously.
Sure.
And then there's something, I think in anything I do, even with Sawyer or Teddy at home, I'll sometimes carry Sawyer around like I'm a mother gorilla, and I have her like that, and I'm doing a gorilla crawl around the house, and she laughs her head off, and I think it's fun, and it's a good little workout. So.
That's it's, where does that come from? The drive to just always challenge yourself.
I don't know. I've always had it. My parents said it didn't matter what it was. I always tried to be the best at it.
Okay.
And I've always felt that, even so, if I was going out and playing hockey with some people that didn't play hockey, I always got frustrated that people that were better, that acted like jerks and didn't pass the puck or were trying to take the puck off.
Yeah.
So I feel I know the balance between when to apply it and when not, when to have fun with it. And so I always enjoyed seeing those other people kind of excel and helping them, and maybe they never scored a goal before, stuff like that. So I think for the most part, I've always been in competition with myself. And I think in the times when I do let it get external and maybe try and compete with someone else is when I let it. That's maybe the times actually when I get down.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, not that ramble made any sense.
No, I think it did. It made me think of like we've challenged each other with the ski erg and with the rowing machine and stuff like that, and it's like it's a back and forth kind of like fun challenge to do better, right? Because we're also in some ways competing. Like Concept 2 has the world leaderboard, so you kind of get to see where you're ranking against everybody else as well. And but yeah, it's like you got to feel satisfied that what is it, in November, whenever they do the 100-meter world challenge or whatever it is, and you've got to still feel some sense of accomplishment that you're top 50 in the world at this event. And we're back and forth by like 0.1 seconds.
It's hilarious. Well, and that's one thing I love, especially with you, because not that we're like super polar opposites, but like our cadence on the ski erg, like how tall you are, how much power, like just the difference. But we literally end up so close with every event. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show that, I don't know, everyone's different in their own physiology and what works for them. And I think that's one, actually, now to go back to the speed skating, and maybe a lot of things, people try to peg people into this is the way it has to be. Like someone could say, oh, RJ's doing the correct form, you have to go over and that's how you have to do the ski erg. You're like, well, no, like we're different. Like we have different limb lengths and different power factors at different regions. Like in the pole, like this works for me, that works for him. And that was kind of one of the frustrating things with speed skating, is a lot of the traditional coaches were like, no, this is the form you have to skate. I'm like, well, if you look at all the best skaters in the world, okay, their ankle and knee angles are similar. Everything else is different. So you don't have to like. Yeah, it's also, it's like we would watch that Big Phil guy that has the world records in the rower and I think the skier, or he's got some of the records, and trying to like mimic his movements, and it wasn't really working too well. But also like Eddie Hall had the 100-meter. Eddie Hall was world's strongest man in 2018, I think, and he used like all upper body and had the 100-meter world. I think he might still have, unless Phil took over it, but Eddie's got one of the fastest times ever for the 100 meters on the ski erg. But it was all upper body. Like there was no movement in his lower body to like get that drive. Exactly.
Just because he's got like such strong,
strong bit of a beast.
Strong lats and triceps for that. I guess the one other thing that, if you want to touch on it, is I feel like you've, things went from being sort of professional athlete, like top performing athlete, into this awesome family man, and developing like this new personal mission. I feel a lot with Sawyer. And do you want to like kind of share like spread the awareness on what kind of like the mission that is going on with that?
Sure. Yeah. I always wanted to have kids. And I've said this before, it may sound really weird, but if anyone were ever to have a special needs kid, I always thought like I'd be the one to have it.
Oh yeah.
And so we have Sawyer. She will be 3 March 13th, and she has Angelman Syndrome. So it's a rare neurogenetic disorder where she is missing the UBE3A gene on her maternal side. So we both have, like everyone has the two.
Sure.
She has a deletion in the maternal side, and it's silent in the paternal side. It's always usually silent in the paternal side, and then you get it from the mother, and that's the functioning one. So she has a deletion, so that causes she has to take clobazam because she has seizures. She can't speak. She'll have to communicate through like an iPad or like a assistive talking device. Lots of physiotherapy. Like she kind of army crawls right now, working on building her upper body strength so she can actually crawl.
Yep.
But yeah, so one of the great things about it, and we were talking about this last night, is with Angelman syndrome, they're usually always like cheery and happy.
Yeah.
And she's always got a smile on her face and giggling, and so that makes things a little bit, I guess, easier in a way. Like it would probably be really draining if she would get really, really frustrated and angry if she couldn't communicate very well. But she's usually always so cheery. They also have sleep disorders, so they don't tend to need as much sleep.
Oh.
As well.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it doesn't really bother me that much. Like, sure, I'll get a little bit tired, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of so with Angelman syndrome, because they know what exactly what it is, there's either mutation, deletion, and I think there's one more, or a silent copy as well. It's not like they're trying to figure out, what it is. It's like, it is this gene, this is what it is. Yep. So this year alone, there's been 4 or 5 trials that have been announced. Everything from a lumbar puncture of an oligonucleotide antisense. Mm-hmm. So it is basically a serum that they inject into the lumbar. It goes up, crosses the blood-brain barrier, and will turn on, I believe, the silent gene. There's one that will end up being just like a drink that they drink, and they'd have to take that for the rest of their life, and that would reverse the effects of not the deletion, probably turning on a silent gene as well. The one that I'm most hopeful for is at a UC Davis in California. It's a stem cell treatment, and it's a one and done approach. So they will genetically modify her stem cells so that it corrects the deletion, and she would get one injection, and that would be it, which is crazy to think.
Yeah.
And it's not in the sense, I think about this sometimes where, like, she's Sawyer, like, there's nothing wrong with her to me. She's our little sweetheart, and it's not like she is any less, but to have her to be able to tell us what she wants or communicate, to have like meaningful friendships with people like that's what you want for your kids. So
yeah,
if there's a way that we can help that, that's what we're doing. So FAST, Foundation for Angelman Syndrome Therapeutics, is the organization that is spearheading all this, and it was started by parents, and they are aggressive. They started their own pharmaceutical company. Like, this is all hands on deck. All money goes to research. We're going to cure this thing. So
yeah.
It's really promising times. It's like it's a good time to have a kid with Angelman syndrome, I guess. Like, a lot of really awesome science and really good people working towards a cure.
Yeah, very promising. And you guys had a really amazing golf tournament fundraiser last year that I think it brought like a lot more awareness into at least this region and like our community, because a lot of people, have never heard of Angelman syndrome. It's not super common as far as I understand, and there's always, I think it's shoot, now I'm forgetting his name. There's like one celebrity that's
Colin Farrell.
Yes, yeah. Colin Farrell. So like it's not like there's a lot of that sort of high publicity either around it, but hopefully, like from what I've seen you sharing and stuff with, hopefully that those treatments become very promising and can really help and make a difference too. So there's always like an ongoing, like, you can donate to FAST or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's either cureangelman.ca is the Canadian, and then cureangelman.org is the American, but it all goes to the same same thing. And then February 15th is International Angelman Day, and the clock downtown's going to be lit up. In honor of that.
Good thing we got this conversation, because this goes out next Monday, which is like just before that, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
That would be next Saturday.
10th is Monday.
Yeah. Awesome. I'll definitely, that works out good time-wise for being able to share this then.
This isn't live?
I prefer not to do it live, just in case somebody like doesn't want the video version or whatever, or whatever we have to do. We haven't had to make any edits, but you know, if by any chance somebody, I don't know, got really mad and stormed off set or something, we could do something like that. I think we're just about out of time, being respectful, because you got to get back to work and back to the world. Is there anything else you want to talk about? What are you reading right now?
I'm slowly, if I don't fall asleep, putting one of the kids to bed, I'm slowly working through Quiet by Susan Cain.
Oh yeah.
And I have lots more that I have started, but that's the one I've been going back to.
Did you get to the lemon juice thing yet?
Yes, I did.
Because when I told you about that, you found it super interesting, because as a kid you weren't allowed to have orange juice because it was too stimulating or something for you.
I would I wasn't allowed to have orange juice, especially before hockey, because I would go crazy and we'd get suspended from games. Yeah.
It's an interesting link there, because I think that you'd probably consider yourself more introverted, right?
Yeah, 100%.
You tend to get the quiet to sort of recharge your batteries, and that whole like hyper stimulation thing just lines up exactly with like what you told me about the orange juice, and so it was really, really interesting to find that connection. But yeah, that's definitely a good book to check out for. We've talked about it several times on the podcast, because it's with doing the introvert episode, and it was one of my favorite books from last year that I finally got around to reading. So it's definitely a good one for, I'd say, pretty much anybody to read, right? Because either as an introvert learning like things that you can improve, like how to not feel like. It's the sort of the obstacle of being in a sort of quote unquote extroverted world, or as an extrovert looking to those friends, family that tend to want to like have solitude or whatever to recharge. Like understanding that stuff's important too, or even as a boss or a leader or whatever.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Knowing those characteristics to help the people that are on your team. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
That was fun, and I've been looking forward to getting you on again to talk more about just kind of the background story and stuff. 'Cause it's super interesting. So yes, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Steve.